The first thing for creating this pleated clutch is to create the pattern. Now I'm not going to do that on camera because I actually already have the pattern for this made out, but I'll show you how I did it. I kind of play around with the paint program in my computer sometimes when I want to create a small bag like this. And that's what I did here. I basically just I just worked with it until I got the size I wanted, and I would print over the exact same image a couple of times. But if you don't want to do it that way, you measure out. And what I have here is about 5 3/4 high by about 9 1/2. And that's the size that I want the end clutch to be, around that size, you know, given seam allowance and all that. And then I took and printed 2 more of these out, and I made the pleated part of the clutch. And I just figured a size about 4 inches, 3 or 4 inches wider than the original pattern. And I taped that to it, and you can see where I did that. And if you want to make a bigger pleats or pleat it all the way down, you can add more length to this. You can tape it further over, you know. But 3 to 4 inches is a good size to make the pleats and have it match up. And that it's just an easy way to do it. I mean, it's easy for me, I guess, because that's how I have always made patterns for little coin purses and things like that, because then all the lines are pretty even, and you know, you don't have to worry about something being off kilter or anything like that. But anyway, that's the pattern, and that's basically all the pattern pieces that you need. For the strip right here, I just cut it freehand, but we'll go ahead and we'll get started on the actual making of the clutch, and you can see how I did all that. And this one, you can see where I have like a part of the zipper covered. I saw somebody else do this on a blog, and I thought it worked so much better to give neater lines for a bag like this. Sometimes it's kind of hard to tuck that zipper in and get it to work, but that works pretty well for me, and I'm going to try to do that with the one I'm going to make now. And what I'm going to do, what I'm going to use is this awesome skull fabric, and for the strip I'm just going to use a piece of hand-dyed muslin that I dyed. It's a kind of a brownish chocolate, milk chocolate color that I thought would go nicely with the bag. So let's get started on constructing the bag. The first thing I'll do off camera is I'm going to cut my pattern pieces, and then I'll come back and show you what I'm going to do. Now I've got my pattern pieces cut out, and I left some things out. Completely forgot to tell you about the lining. But you need Pelon fusible interfacing, and I'm using Pelon number 809 Decor Bond. I hate that word decor, it doesn't sound right. Anyway, I cut 2 pieces of that to the size, the small size of the clutch. I've got 2 pieces of lining. I got 1 piece of the regular size for the back of the bag, and then I've cut a long piece for the front and a piece just slightly longer than the small size to make the strip on the front of the bag, just in case, you know, something doesn't measure up right. But anyway, yeah, and a zipper, and I just chose a purple one. Yeah, it's kind of colorful. And then you need a little strip. I kind of just played this by ear with this. I didn't have a specific piece for it, but it's probably going to end up being too big. But I've cut about a 3-inch by 2-inch piece here, and that's going to be the end that covers the end part of the zipper. So the first thing that we need to do is create the pleats. And the way I do this is I will fold this in half, and I kind of score it with my fingernail. And then I open it back up, and I see the middle here. I've got the middle part. With a pattern like this, I'm not so sure, you know, just how this is going to look, because it has this skull print on it. It's going to kind of distort the front. but I made sure that in the back I had a pretty distinct skull in the middle so you'd see what it was. But anyway, the first thing I'll do is from the center I will pinch a pleat in and go outwards with it, and it'd be about a 1/2 inch pleat. I should have had my pins ready. Bought a new pack of pins when we moved. Now I can't find the darn things. Okay, and I'm at both ends of this pleat. I'm going to put pins in it so it stays in place. And do the same thing again, trying to get it as even as possible. And just play around with it until you've got it right. And if it starts looking like it's, you know, going out like that, you need to make sure you straighten it up, because it's really hard to work with once you tack this in place if you don't have everything right. And just to make sure that I'm not going over, I kind of use this piece as a guideline. Alright, now I'm going to take and do another pleat, just a small one, coming to the outside here. I did see somewhere someone pleated the whole bag going down. That can get really complicated, but it is really pretty. If you want to do it that way, just remember that you need to add onto this front piece of fabric for however much pleat you want to give it. Okay. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is go over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to tack this just where the pleats are. I'm going to tack it on there with a loose stitch just so it doesn't move when I get ready for the next step. Tacked my pleats down. The next thing I want to do is put this strip on, but first I want to iron these pleats and make sure they're good and flat. And I'm going to take this strip right here and just fold it over. And I think I cut about maybe a 3-inch strip, and I'm really bringing that down to about 1 inch. Might have been about 2.5 inches, I'm not sure. Okay. There's no need to do a turn or anything. It may make it too thick, and you may get into some problems sewing that on. But now we'll just figure out where we want to place this. I'm going to pin it down. Now I'm going to go over to the machine, and I'm going to sew down each edge of, down each edge of the strip. Trim sewn on. At this point we want to put our interfacing on our two outside pieces. I'm also going to cut off this extra that I had overlapping on this outer piece. You can walk on by here, Daisy. Okay. And the pleated part may be a little difficult. You might want to just stay stitch it on with a zigzag stitch around the edges if you can't get it to stay on there. Now, at this point, before you put anything together, you want to add any trim, any decoration or whatever you want to call it that you want to put on here. What I've chosen for this is a little, I don't know if you can see it there, a little antique looking rose button. So I'm going to turn the camera off and sew that on, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, I've got my little decorative piece, my rose button sewn on here. The next thing that I did, and I went ahead and did this off camera, I wasn't even thinking when I did it, but I've taken this piece and sewn it to the zipper. And what I did was I laid it over this way and I sewed across here, and then I folded it over and ironed it. And of course this is going to be way too much fabric, but I would rather go over than under with something like that. So the next step is going to be to put the pieces on to the zipper and sew them on. And what we'll do is we'll take a front piece and lay it on one side, and then we're going to take the back, what'll be the lining of the bag, and we'll line it up with the front side, the other piece that we put on there, and we're going to pin that on. We're going to pin it in a direction that will allow us to pull the pins out as we go along. So I don't know what it is about me being right-handed, but I always have to sew from this side of the zipper, from the left side to the right. So when I turn it, I always use the same zipper foot. But anyway, if you don't do it that way, you know, you do it whatever way suits you. Just make sure when you're doing this part that you got that lined up evenly, because it'll cause you to sew a little off-handed on the zipper if you don't make sure that everything is flush with the edge of the zipper. I don't really pin it on because at some point I'm going to have to open the zipper up to finish this part. So I'm going to take it over to the machine, and I'm going to sew very carefully along this edge, and then I will do the same thing with the other side. I'll show you the first one. I'll do the second one off camera to save time. See, at this point we're going to open the zipper up a little bit because it's going to be very difficult to sew. It's not going to come together right if you don't open the zipper up. If you make sure your needle is down in the fabric, you won't have to worry about it moving from the position you leave it in, so that you can unzip the zipper. I always want to do a little back stitch when you're getting to the finishing stages of something like this, because it really helps it stay together. Okay, so I'm going to go off camera and do the same thing with the other side of the pieces of the bag, and then I'll be back. See, I've sewn this together, backs and fronts like this, and I just went back over and ironed. If you wanted to, you could put a stitch at the top of these. I don't really like to do it because I did it with this first bag and I felt like it didn't look as neat as I wanted it to be. And it doesn't really need it. So it's just, it's really up to the seamster, whatever you call the person making this. It is completely up to you, but I think it looks fine without it, so I'm not going to put it on there. And the next thing I'm going to do is just trim off this excess. See, it's so easy to take away, but it is impossible to add to. If you try to measure that and it doesn't come out right, you're going to get frustrated because you're going to have to start over. So anyway, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this zipper, and since there's like a 2-inch piece there, you're going to just about have to open it completely up. And I'm going to put the right sides together for the front and the back, and just join everything together. And you see you've got a lot of extra here too from the inside of that piece on the zipper, and you want to cut that off. That is just going to be in the way, and it's going to create a bulge in the bag. You want to line these up and pin them together. Just pin closer to the center when you're pinning, so you don't have to remove your pins as you go along. And you don't need to over pin with this, you just want it to stay in place. What I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to start right here, sew all the way around, and stop right here, leaving enough, maybe 3 inches, so that I can turn the bag. I'm going to do that and I will come back and show you. I have sewn all around except for I left a little gap right here so I can turn the bag. The next thing I want to do is clip at the corners. I don't want to clip the seam, I just want to clip these corners off. Doing this will help you get nice crisp corners, and you won't have those little bulges in the bag. It just doesn't look as good. Okay, so now all I have to do is turn this bag, and it's a process because you can't leave too big of a gap right here. You just have a mess. It won't look as good. So you just have to, I start by pushing a corner up through there. And you want to back stitch on the edges of that gap you left open too, because it'll help it, you know, the seam will rip a lot easier if you don't back stitch. And I always like to have a little wooden dowel or something when I'm doing something like this, so I can turn everything out neatly and push the corners out. You don't need to push the corners out for the lining because it's going to go the opposite way. See, get in there with that little dowel and you can get the corner out a lot better. Go ahead and open the zipper up as far as you can get it, all the way open. And then push that corner out. And at this point, before you close this gap, it is a lot easier to iron this out now and get it neat. So I'm going to do that. Alright, and the next step will be to just take this little opening here, and I always like to go and iron it before I try to close it with the machine. You can slip stitch it. I am just so bad at that. And it's the inside of, Pedro, it's the inside of the bag, so I mean, as long as you close that stitch neatly, with the machine. It's not going to be a great big deal. It's just, like I said, I'm so bad at slit stitching and blind stitching and all that. And I really need to practice it because, you know, if you're going to sell bags, you want to learn to do stuff like that so it'll be hidden. But I'm just going to pin it with one pin, and on this side, because I'm going to sew from this side, and go over to the machine and close it up, and then I will come back and show you the finished product. You see I've closed up that gap there, that hole we left in it for turning. I can't think straight today, y'all. Alright. Now I'm just going to go in with my dowel and make sure everything is nice and neat in there. And I didn't put a loop on the way I did this one. I like it that way. I think it works. I just didn't do it for the purpose of this video. But all you have to do is cut a piece, couple of pieces, about 2-inch wide piece, sew the right sides facing it, or put a piece of interfacing in it too. Forgot to say that. Sew it right sides facing together, turn it, and then sew an outline on it to make it look neat, and you know, just add it to the bag. But anyway, there is, yeah, I can get in frame. There is the finished bag. Cute little gift for somebody for Christmas, and you can make these to resell. It's really up to you what you do with them, but it's a nice time of year to do something like this. So it's a really quick project, and it's a really cute project. I will probably gift this bag to somebody. The reason for this kind of fabric, you know, you want to take into consideration that you're going to be covering up some of the really pretty design that's on there. So, but you can always make up for that on the back, the way I did with this one. I really love this fabric. I ordered it from an Etsy seller, and she's the only person I have found that has it. If you want her Etsy shop name, I can look that up and I'll post it on the video for you. It's not cheap. I can't remember. I think it may have been $9, $10 a yard. Still beautiful fabric. I've ordered 2 yards, and I will get as much out of it as I can. But anyway, that's our little project. And if you did notice, I did change to a pink zipper instead of the purple one that I initially showed in the video. I just thought it worked a lot better, and I'm glad I did that because it matches up nicely. And it's nice and clean on the inside. And I'm just wasting your time just keeping on talking about it. So that is it. That's my project for today. And I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any other things you'd like to see me make, just make sure that you let me know in the comments. And I am currently working on trying to do a little better job on the dress to apron video pattern. So yeah, hopefully I'll have that soon. I bought a few dresses at the flea market, and I'm experimenting. Done ruined a couple of them, but it's alright. So that's it, guys. Peace, love, and sunshine. Bye-bye.